Welcome to another episode of Wisdom on the Front Porch, where you can gain wisdom wherever you are, and that's your front porch. But today we're here with Danny, and he's going to tell us a lot of really cool things we need to know as entrepreneurs. So, Danny, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit so people know who you are and where you're coming from.
Well, thank you so much, Alice. First of all, thank you for spreading some joy. That's my mission, is to bring joy back in education and the workplace. I do that in four different ways, using all the four communication styles, which are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So in terms of writing, you and I were already talking about it. I just finished my 18th book, just went to press on Friday. Very excited about that. It's called Misfits and Crackpots. The last book I wrote was called Leadership Begins with Motivation. It's an homage to Paul Harvey, with all these short stories where you're trying to guess who's he talking about or what's the company. And after I wrote that book, I realized, completely unintentionally, so many of my examples were of white male Americans. And so Misfits and Crackpots, the new one, most of the stories are of women, minorities, and international people. I'm really excited about it. I had a great time writing it. In terms of
Like
reading,
Paul Harvey doing the rest of the story. Now
yeah,
you know
exactly.
the
That's
rest
what
of the
it's like.
story.
Yep. I grew up listening to Paul Harvey. In terms of reading, I've got the world's top reading engagement program online, which in just over 2 months shows parents how to get their kids to read more, read better, and most importantly, to love reading. Because I find
Nice.
schools do an adequate job of teaching kids how to read. But the question I always ask people is, well, what good is it teaching a kid how to read if they never want to read? I teach kids why to read, because I've never had to tell a kid, go turn on the TV. I've never had to tell a kid, go play a video game. And I never want to have to tell a kid, go read. I want them to choose to do it because they love it. And there's easy strategies that I share with people on how to get their kids excited about it. In terms of speaking, I speak over 100 dates a year all over the world. I've done over 3,500 engagements. It's been a busy season for me. 2 weekends ago, I was in South Africa. Last weekend, I was in Los Angeles. This weekend, I was in Nashville. I'm off to Phoenix this coming weekend, and then Seoul, South Korea. And then I'm going to take a couple of
Wow.
months off. And then probably what's probably most applicable to your audience is I work with individuals, entrepreneurs, and organizations on leveraging speaking on stages as a major client lead source that converts to clients. So we can go whichever direction you want to go.
I want to go back 40 years and you can help me get my son to read. It actually took me a while to figure out what books he liked. Once I found the books he liked, then he just read like crazy. But it was a process in getting there. And yeah, I love it. You're jumping around to all of these places. So I really want to know, how did you get started in this business?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm kind of a dog, squirrel. I have attention deficit. What's that?
Me too.
So I have, yeah, lots of different strokes for different folks. I was a teacher in the inner city for many years. Because of financial necessity, I had to start speaking to earn extra income. And then because of COVID, when I lost all my speaking engagements overnight, I made the next pivot to coaching, which I always resisted because I have a very high standard. I want people to succeed, and I guess that's why people like me as a coach, is I won't let them get off that easy. They got to succeed.
And that's awesome because there's a lot of coaches out there who, oh, I think they're mostly just getting started, and this is what they've been taught. You know, you do this and you make your money and stuff, but they forget about the client.
Yeah.
They forget about why they're doing it because they want to help that person succeed
Yeah,
and
they either take the
don't
money and
stick
run,
with
or
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they either take the money or run, or they're completely unqualified. I always joke that if you need a life coach, there's four of them sitting at Starbucks right now.
I love the way you're thinking. We're reading a book, sorry, I don't remember the man's name. Um, I don't remember it. Shoot. Um, I'm going to look on Audible because you bring up a good point that a lot of times the lessons we can learn is watching what the people are doing when they fail, when they stop, when they don't know what they're doing. Um,
Mhm.
and let me go to my library here. Jim Rohn.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
Jim was a
right?
mentor of
Yeah.
mine. Jim used to always say, "You can't pay other people to do your push-ups." Translation: you got to do the work. So when I'm working with people on their speeches, I say, you got to get out there and deliver your speech. Go to service organizations, schools, churches. chambers of commerce, whatever. You need to, it's kind of like your
Okay, we've got a little bit of a
time.
glitch here.
Yeah. What's that?
Sorry. Yeah, we have a little bit of a glitch. You froze and disappeared. So it might be
Oh,
my internet. Um, all right, we'll see how it goes. So you were talking about people need to get out and don't just want to do a speech. They got to get out there and actually give a speech to churches, to
absolutely.
speak
Need the
clubs.
rep. Yeah, it's the same in anything. If you want to get better at it, you need the reps. I mean, the first time you gave a podcast, I bet it stunk. And the second time it stunk, but it didn't stink as bad as the
It
first
wasn't
time.
even a podcast.
Yeah. Now that you're a seasoned veteran, you know, it's no problem. It's like tying your shoes. It's the same thing with anything.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And it's true. I mean, you've got to keep doing it, and it's scary. It's scary as all get out. What if I get there and they say no? Now I've learned to embrace the no's. It's like, what? I only got 20 no's today. What's wrong with me? I need that 100 a day. Yeah.
That's right.
But
The right
but
attitude.
still, yeah, it's really scary. Or you get out there, or you do get the no's, and you keep getting the no's, and you keep getting the no's, and it's like, all right, so I need to reassess either what I'm saying, how I'm approaching it, what I'm doing. Am I just going to the wrong places that aren't ready for this? So yeah, I mean, those are great insights. So there you are, you're being a teacher and you decided I'm going to be a coach even though I don't want to be a coach. How did you really make that decision?
Well, again, it was out of financial necessity. Since I wasn't allowed to speak anywhere with the global pandemic, I started coaching people on the side, and I formed a business with my partner, Coach Jimmy Hayes Nelson. He's from Broadway, and I'm from education, so I call us the professor and the poet. And basically, we work
Yeah.
with people for 2 days, nice small groups, about 12 people, because that way we can you get the benefit of listening to other people and figure out how you can improve your speech, but then you get the individual attention that you deserve. And we create what we call a well-crafted story. You know, politicians would call it a stump speech. In superhero movies, they call it the origin story. You know, in his book Start With Why, Simon Sinek would probably say this is your visionary statement. You can call it peanut butter and jelly. What we're teaching you how to do is to create a presentation that you're going to deliver again and again to new audiences to
Right.
introduce who you are and what you do to those audiences. And, you know, we don't judge how well you do based on if you start feeling like, oh, I'm a really good speaker. And we don't judge how well you're going to do is, you know, everybody's applauding you all the time. The only measure of success we have is, are you maximizing your audience to take the next step, whether that's to,
Hmm.
it might be an unpaid offer. So some people, you know, enroll in my newsletter or sign up for a free phone call. A lot of people, it's a paid offer, like buy my product or invest in my coaching program. We want to maximize the number of people in your audience that decide to take that next step with you.
Yeah, and that's really important, doing that call to action, because it's really great to get out there and give your speeches, but you don't want people to just say, yeah, that was nice, great, thanks, and I'll tell other people about it. And it's like, well, okay, but now what? Yeah,
Exactly.
you want them to keep coming back and go for more. And
Yeah.
um yeah, it's there's a lot of things when you're starting out that you don't think about. It's like, oh man, I just made it through my speech. I was just really glad for that. But then you're like, well, I've been doing a lot of talking, but nothing's happening. And it's like, well, are you asking them to come do something? And sometimes that's an art too, is getting that
Yeah.
call to action.
Which
And
is what we do with our clients is in the 2 day workshop, we show you, you know, we call it the 5 C's. So the 5 C's are before anything, we help you with your clarity. So there's two
right,
questions every entrepreneur needs to ask themselves is who is your audience and what is the problem that you solve? Now, if you can answer both of those questions, you're in pretty good shape, but you'd be surprised how the great majority of people, they can't answer both of those questions. You ask them, who's your audience? And they say, everybody. Well, there's an old saying, if everybody is your audience, you're serving nobody.
right,
A lot of people actually have no idea what problem they're solving. So before we even get into putting together your well-crafted story, that's what we have to ask are those two
right.
clarity questions. The
Yeah.
4 C's in the process of your well-crafted story are within the first 5 minutes, how do you connect with your audience? And then
Right.
what is the content that you're going to teach your audience, and then we get to your call to action, and then finally what's the close to your presentation. And you know, I was a lot of people, they have the right elements, but it's kind of like when I was in South Africa a couple of weeks ago. I love walking, and I was walking all over the place, residential neighborhoods, and
Nice.
touristy areas. And it was interesting. I noticed that the beggars only begged in the touristy areas, and the reason is because
Oh,
that's where the money is. It's the same thing in
yeah.
a presentation. It's all about the location. So we worked with a financial advisor now about 2 months ago. His name was Richard, and Richard is very, very successful. He's been in the industry for 30 years. He's made over $1
Wow.
billion for his clients. He talked about all the famous people he's worked with, and I said, "That's great, Richard. You have it in the wrong part of your presentation." That's how he was starting off his talk. And he was turning off his audience because all he was doing was bragging. And for your audience right now, there's one thing I want everybody in your audience to understand, Ellis, is and Brene Brown talks about this in her book Dare to Dream, is don't talk about your successes, talk about your failures, because not
Yep.
everybody in your audience has succeeded, but they've all failed. And the more you talk about your own struggles, they're going to start to really relate to you. And so now what we did with Richard's presentation is he talks about his very first client, which was basically a comedy of errors. It's amazing the guy signed up with Richard because he screwed up so many different ways. And Richard made this, it
Well,
was an
there's
interesting
hope.
analysis. He does these like dinner talks with couples, about 15 couples at a steak restaurant every couple of weeks. And he said when he changed his talk, he noticed that the guys usually have their arms crossed at the beginning of his presentation. And now that he's doing his new talk, he sees them slapping their knees. They're laughing so hard, and he sees the connection right away. It wasn't a problem that he was bragging. We just put that back into the call to action part of his presentation
Right.
where he gives all those credentials, and then he closes now
Yeah.
with why he actually became a financial advisor, which was because he had a beloved uncle who died broke. And he swore
Oh,
he would never let a person he cared about die broke. He would show them how to invest their money properly. So it's a much better presentation. Most people have the elements. They don't realize that they have the elements, but it's kind of like me as a cook. I'm kind of hopeless as a cook, but if you gave me a recipe on how to make chocolate chip cookies and I followed the recipe, I'm pretty sure I could make a decent batch of chocolate chip cookies. It might not be
yep.
perfect, and that's why what we talked about earlier, that's why you need the reps. The next time it would be better, and the time after that it would be even better. Anybody can speak. It's just a matter of giving them the right blueprint.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to go on your example of that, my husband is an amazing chef. He
Mm.
cooks just for himself and us, sometimes, for a group or something. But I can follow a recipe and it's still not going to turn out as good as he does. And I
Mm.
found out why, because he sees to make sure that all the ingredients smell good together, taste good together. And so for me to improve on that, because I thought, how am I going to do that? All I can do is follow a recipe. I don't know if these things go together. He's got, they say the more taste buds you have on the tongue, the more you can taste things. And well, I must not have very many on my tongue because they're all, oh, it's all good to me. But what I did do is I started watching cooking shows and cooking shows with the food that he likes and started looking at how they were mixing the ingredients together. I must have been watching like 5 different chefs at the same time doing their different things, everything from the Caribbean to, moose on a stick type thing, and just going through that. And now when I cook, I can tell the different scents and things. I do notice things, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to use that. That's
Yeah.
nope. I don't care if my brain says, yeah, use this. It's like, no. And it has made a huge difference. And I believe that on our business, we have to look at what is going to go good together. You can give me all the ingredients for a recipe, but if you don't hand me the recipe, you just give me the ingredients and tell me to make something out of it, I'm not going to know what to do with those. But
Yeah, well, you were smart,
yeah,
Alice. You got a coach. You found a coaching program,
yeah,
a TV show on cooking that you liked. Your husband was a coach to you, and you
oh
actually
yeah,
followed their instructions. As most people, they try and do it on their own, and power to you. But I mean, I'm a huge golf fanatic, and Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in the world, he has a putting coach, he has a driving coach, he has a short
Yep.
game coach, he's a psychological coach. Perhaps he should have hired a relationship coach, but that's another story. But that's how you get better at anything, is you have somebody that coaches you along and shows you the tweaks
Yeah.
that, I mean, Richard was a perfect example. Is Richard, and the other thing that you said, which I liked, is just like your husband as a chef, there's lots of chefs out there.
Yeah.
Richard's a financial planner. There are tons of financial planners out there. So people say, well, how am I going to be different? I'm like, you're different. You're
Yeah.
unique.
It's
There's
only
other people that
and
do what
you.
you do. Yeah, there's other people that do what you do, but they don't do it the way you do. I mean, some
Yeah.
people connect specifically with you, and that's your tribe. Your tribe doesn't have to be everybody. Your tribe just has to be the people that connect with you. Of
Yes, absolutely. Look at all the podcasters out there. But
course.
even though there may be podcasters talking about entrepreneurs, or like my other podcast, it's on books, there may be other podcasters talk about books, but we each bring our own unique flavor, and I don't know what other words to use with it, but we make it our own.
That's right. One
and
flavor was
and
perfect since we
listen,
were talking about cooking, so it was great.
yeah, yeah. But it's good. I mean, that way you can have 100 people doing the same job, but it comes out a different 100 different ways, because we've got almost 9 billion people in the world. I think we can all fit in. We're
I
going to
agree.
be somebody that nobody else can.
Yeah, that's the proper mindset too, Ellis. I was talking to a speaker a couple of weeks ago, and I was sharing all of my contacts with him, and he's like, "Why do you do this? You're my competition." I said, "Well, that's where you and I differ. I don't have
Yeah.
competition. I
No.
only have potential collaborators. So don't get out of that limited scarcity mindset and start thinking
Oh
bigger."
yeah. Yeah. I was at the Texas Book Festival today. There's someone else there writing children's book. I loved what he did with it. And so I talked with him. I says, how about we collaborate on a book? And at first it's like, and then it's kind of like, because there's so many kids that need to enjoy, and we just started getting along and found out we like a lot of similar things. We've got that energy out there that keeps up with kids, and it's like, okay, let's do that. My grandson just told me, he goes, I'd really like to write a book with you. And it's like, you got it.
Oh, neat.
He does anime work, and he's really great at it. And so he's in, get my right side. He's in the giving books before. In fact, he's going to put something in volume 4 that's coming out. And
Nice.
I'm really excited about that. But you had to have him say he wants to do a book with me. It's like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this now.
Yep. Different strokes for different folks. The same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm teaching, usually the tough people to get through to reading, it's 4 out of 5 struggling reluctant readers are boys. It's because girls and boys have very different tastes. Little girls
Yeah.
will read books about little boys. Little boys don't like reading books about little girls. I mean, obviously there's exceptions,
I
but
want
uh,
trucks.
yeah, I mean, there's a great example in one of the Jeff Kinney Diary of the Wimpy Kid books. The Greg Heppley's mother decides she's going to do a mother-son book club, and so she invites all the neighborhood boys to bring books to the book club. And the books that she's brought are Anne of Green Gables and Little House on the Prairie and Little Women. And the books the boys have brought are like How to Cheat at Video Games, Monster Trucks, Dinosaurs, Bodily Functions.
Kind of
Different
books.
books for different folks. Whatever turns you. I mean, as a researcher, I always tell people the research is very clear on this. It doesn't matter what you read. What matters is how much you read. It doesn't matter if you're reading James Joyce or James and the Giant Peach. People who read more read better. I always tell parents the little boy who only reads Captain Underpants is going to become a better reader than the little boy who refuses to read anything. Captain Underpants
Yeah.
is the gateway drug to Shakespeare, but you got to get the kid hooked. Just like with your son 40 years ago, I loved it at the beginning. You said you found what he liked. So many teachers don't do that. They just do a mandated curriculum. I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, we had to read The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And no offense to people that love Nathaniel Hawthorne, the book is about Hester Prynne commits adultery, so she's forced to wear an A on her chest. And I raised my hand and I asked my teacher if I could wear a B on my chest because I was so bored reading that book. And if that teacher would have just found out what I was interested in and let me read whatever I wanted to read, I could do so much better. And I'm not bagging on teachers. I'm a teacher. I get it. It's tough. Everybody likes to blame teachers for anything. It, Anybody can be a teacher. It takes a lot of hard work to be a good teacher, though, which is
Yeah.
very find out what what's that flavor that each kid likes?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I had a teacher in fourth grade who I really know she didn't do it intentionally, but she paired me up with another student in the class, and I thought I was supposed to help him read because I read all the time, and I was going through these, I don't know, these course things that we had, and I could do it as fast as I wanted, as often as I wanted, and the reason she paired me up with him is because she thought I was reading too fast. Even though I understood everything that I read, she thought I was reading too fast. I was so embarrassed and I
Hmm.
had to read so slow. And every time I came to a period or an exclamation mark or a question mark, I had to pause, take a break before I could read again. And I hated reading after that because it took me forever to do anything. And I no longer enjoyed it. And
Hmm.
when I became an adult, I thought, well, this is really stupid. I'm not a kid anymore. I understand now. Why did I let that bother me? I talked to my mom about it that night. She goes, school is just about out. Just go ahead and do it her way for now. And when summer comes, you can read on your own. Well, my lovely ADHD brain didn't reset itself when summer came. It was like, you're going to read and you're going to read slow. And it was like, ugh. But now it's like, yeah, forget that. I'm reading
Too
fast as I
often the
want
case.
to. Yeah. And that's part of it is, are your kids understanding what they're reading? Do they understand what's going on in the story? And if they are, then maybe don't give them such a hard time about it. I mean, you know, that's that's my nickel's worth.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a Baptist in your front row saying amen. Absolutely.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. Okay, so great. You've got this business going. COVID hit. You had to find other ways to do this. So you did. You adapted. You kept going on, which is great. Entrepreneurs have to do that. You have to adapt to what's going on. You want to keep finding what's working for your clients. So now COVID is over. And what are you doing now? Is everything still just online and separate? Are you out? Well, obviously not if you're traveling.
No, I'm still doing all those different things. I'm really focused now on the coaching. I have so much fun doing that. So really, what we do is we provide the two elements. Is it's based on client feedback. And so first of all, we show you how to create a well-crafted story, a presentation
Right.
that you can deliver to get high conversion of clients out of your leads. And then secondly, people then always ask, well, how do I find these stages? And so we've developed an entire seminar on how to use artificial intelligence to find those stages for you, how to work with those leads, and then how to convert those leads. It works better if we already have created the presentation for them, because the way AI works is the better input you can give it, the better
Right.
actually serve you. We do,
Yes.
some people do it the opposite way. Well, they're like, well, I don't know if I need to have a really well crafted story. I'm like, okay, fine. So we'll find you the stages, but it's general information. And, 9 times out of 10, those people are like, you were right. It would probably be a little bit more beneficial to put together because everybody is a little bit different. It's the
Right.
same. It's
Right.
what we were talking about. The secret to good teaching is individualization. Everybody's a little bit different, and
Yeah.
everybody's business is a
Yeah.
little bit different. And even the people that have the same business, the way they teach it is a little bit different.
Yeah. One thing I've really noticed, though, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a speech, whether it's a talk, whether it's a training, writing a book, whatever it is, the ones who seem to be really successful, who seem to have one door open up and another door open up, are the ones who bring it from their heart
Mm.
and give a part of themselves with it. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a little bit different than a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches will teach you, oh, talk about the saddest moment in your life. And I'm a little bit different than Ellis. There's three reasons why I don't do that. First of all, the world just survived a global pandemic. Everybody's had
Yeah.
negative things happen to them. I think we need more stories of hope. We don't need to hear another sad story. Second of all, I'm teaching you to deliver this speech again and again. I don't know how a person delivers a talk about like losing a child or like some horrible moment in their life. I honestly don't know how people, I mean, and I know some people that they deliver those talks hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be stronger than me about talk about that. And third, and this is where people get angry with me. I have one objective when I'm on stage. I want you to leave feeling better than when you came in. I want you
Oh,
laughing,
yeah.
smiling, happy. I can tell the same joke again and again, and I think there's something admirable about the objective to get you to smile. I believe these people attain this that tell the same sad story again and again. By the 20th time they're telling that story, now those are crocodile tears, and now they're being manipulative. And I'm not saying it's not an effective sales technique. It's actually a
Right.
very effective sales technique. But I don't want to have to take a shower after I get off the stage because I just manipulated my audience. I want it to be free flowing. And so I tend to avoid, and I don't mind a sad story if there's a happy ending
Right. Yeah, if you've got hope in it, if there's a
versus
reason
harm.
for
But
it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if Julia Roberts dies in the middle of an American movie, I know she'll be alive by the end. There's going to be a happy ending. If she gets shot in a French movie, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think she might be dead. She ain't coming back, and it's just depressing. Life's too short to be depressed. I want
It
some
is.
hope out there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, in one of my talks that I did give, was talking about hope because somebody said to me, hope is just something you say to be nice to people. And that bothered me. It really bothered me deep because it's not. Hope is what gets you out of the slump, gets you out of the darkness, gets you away from where you need to be. Hope is a real tangible thing that keeps you going. If we don't have hope, we don't go anywhere. You've got to have that hope there. It's so real.
Yeah, that's one of the books that just made me laugh just from the very beginning is Woody Allen. At the beginning of his book, it shows the Emily Dickinson quote, which is "Hope is a thing with feathers," and so the name of his book is "Without Feathers."
Oh,
I
great.
I just thought that's hilarious, and it's all his self-deprecating humor and everything. But I'm like, that's great. You know, you can take, and that's what I love. If you watch the best comedians, what they're doing, a lot of them are telling you really sad stories, but they've removed themselves from the time of it, and so they're
Yeah.
able to laugh about their own trials and travails. And I think that's what all of us need. We need to be able to. I agree with everything you were just saying. Is people need to hear that, oh, we're going to make it's, I call it the Mary Tyler Moore. We're going to make it after all. I mean, all this
Yeah.
bad stuff can happen, but we're going to make it after all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, a while back, I was like, this is so tough. Everything, I mean, it was just like everything was just coming down on me. Nothing was working out right. I had my focus in the wrong place. I had my attitude in the wrong place. And it was just these one things after another was like, why am I even doing this? And it's like, because you get through tough times and you're going to come out so much further ahead. And I could have quit. I could have said, it's just not worth it. It was really nice. I enjoyed the ride while I was on it, but I didn't want to stop. I wanted to, my big thing is I want to show my grandkids to go for what they want, to keep going, even when it gets tough. And if I wouldn't have gone through it, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be having this amazing adventure I'm on. you know and sometimes you got to shoot the rapids and it's going to get tough and you're going to get knocked out of the boat, but you just get back in there.
That's why everybody loves Rocky. Is at the end of the movie, the night before Rocky fights Apollo Creed, he's in bed with Adrian, and he's like, Adrian, I'm going to lose, but I don't care. I just want to go the distance with the champ. And a lot of people forget this. Is at the end of Rocky, he loses to Apollo Creed, but he doesn't matter because he went the distance. He went all 15
Yes.
rounds.
Yes.
And that's why people love him. Is he gets hit, but he gets knocked down and he gets right back up. And it's exactly what you were just saying about your own story, Ellis. Is people need to hear these stories about people getting knocked down, but not staying down.
Oh,
Mick kept
yeah.
telling, hey, stay down, but Rocky wouldn't. He keeps on getting up and getting a beating, and that's what everybody loved. This is what I love about Americans. We always root for the underdog. I love rooting
Yeah.
for the underdogs. It drives my wife crazy. I usually root against America in the Olympics, and she's like, "Why are you rooting against America?" I'm like, "Honey, who am I going to root for? The American with the microchip in his Nikes, or the barefoot Sudanese refugee who just survived a civil war? They just did his backstory. He's like, I learned how to run running away from the bullets in my village. I'm like, of course I'm rooting for that guy. It's an amazing
Yeah.
story. And this is the power of stories. This is
Oh
how
yeah.
I connect. This is since cavemen. People, of all people, it was Stalin who said, "A million dead is a statistic, one dead is a tragedy." Translation: facts tell, but stories sell. And so, if there's one thing anybody in your audience of entrepreneurs can get out of this, is you have to really create a well-crafted story. One of the exercises out here, I'll give you an exercise that I give people. So uh,
Okay.
later on, get a pen and paper, sit in a comfortable chair, get a libation of choice, and for an hour, write down every story that's ever happened in your life. And I don't mean the whole story, I just mean triggers, like the time I locked myself out of the car in front of Costco, the time dad spilt mustard on his tie at that fancy restaurant. You'll come up with probably about 400 to 500 of these stories in just an
Oh
hour.
man.
That's the
Yeah.
first part of the exercise. The second part of the exercise is then you want to figure out, what's this really a story about? Oh, this is a story about never giving up. Oh, this is a story about accountability. Oh, this is a story about love. If you go on my computer, I literally have files with tens of thousands of stories. So if I'm ever at an event and I need a story, I want my audience to take action. Well, here's a story about why it was important to take action. Or I
Yeah.
need a story of getting rid of the status quo. Where here's a story of getting rid of the status.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, we froze a little bit again. There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about stories, and it's like all of a sudden the one popped in my head, and I guess this would be a love story. Is I'm in the store, I've got my keys, I put everything on the seat, put my granddaughter in the seat, close the door, she locks it. I can't get in there because I don't have keys. Everybody's at work. What do I do? I'm talking to her. She was able to open the window, not a problem. But it's window that just opened up a little bit on the back of my pickup. And I'm
Mm.
talking, and all of a sudden I see her eyes, and she starts to get weepy. Well, she
Oh.
was getting tired. So when kids get tired, I probably should have told her, just go ahead and take a nap. It'll be okay. You know, but she's like kind of scared. And I'm like, nobody can get a hanger to open it up. The doors were so well set in this. And so we just went to the other side and I busted the glass. I didn't care what it was going to do because I didn't want my granddaughter crying. I didn't want her to be scared. And it took a very long time to find a window for that pickup, but it didn't matter.
So
It didn't
I
matter
love
at
that
all.
story. I love that story, Ellis, because we can craft that into the presentation. Because then the point that you would be making is, there's times in our lives where we feel like we've tried everything, and the answer's staring right at us. Sometimes we just got to bust the window, make a decision, take action, and that's when the good things happen. That's how you would change that
Yeah.
story. Great story.
Cool. Cool. Good example. Oh, thanks. Yeah. 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 You talking about stories. I had no idea. We really do have a lot of stories, you know, like,
And I always think those are the best. The best one. Now I've worked with people that have won gold medals and who've climbed Mount Everest, and that's all fine and good, but it's not very relatable to most people in their audiences.
yeah.
Most people in the audience, everybody peed their pants in first grade. And so that's a great story because everybody can relate to that. Everybody's argued with their spouse on, should the toilet paper go over or under, silly things like
Close the
that.
lid or leave it
Yeah.
open.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so those are very relatable. And I love that story because you got the child element and everything. I take a lot of stories from when I was a teacher. So one of the stories I use, I'll say, when I was an elementary school teacher, every other teacher at my school went through hundreds, if not thousands, of Band-Aids every year. Kids love Band-Aids. They work better than smokes on the prison yard. Well, every year I went through exactly one Band-Aid, and my colleagues always ask me, what's your secret? Well, on the first day of school, there's always a chubby kid in my class. We'll call him Paco. And he's picking at a scab all morning. Finally, after lunch, he has success. And the annoying little girl next to him raises her hand, rubs her nose, and says, Mr. Brassell, Paco is bleeding. I'm like, oh my gosh, Paco. You know what you need? You need a Band-Aid. And all of a sudden, 33 heads look my way. I'm like, I have a drawer full of Band-Aids in my desk. And I'm not just gonna give you any Band-Aid. We got Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Band-Aids, and I'm gonna give you the Green Ranger because he's the coolest. Now Paco's smiling, all the kids are smiling. I bring Paco to my desk. I say, oh, before I put on the Band-Aid, we've got to clean out the wound. And that's when I take out the bottle of rubbing alcohol and show all the kids the rubbing alcohol. I'm like, hold on to my fist, Paco. This might sting a little bit. I start pouring that rubbing alcohol. He's screaming, ah! I put on the Band-Aid. I say, there you go. Anybody else need a Band-Aid? Ellis, my students can have a skull fracture, and they will never ask me for a Band-Aid. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give you Band-Aids today. I'm going to show you the proper way to structure speech so that you can get more clients and make a bigger impact on society. So you see how I'm taking the story and then I'm connecting it to the points I want to make. That's all you have to do. And it's fun. I love doing this with people. People have no idea the great story. I mean, you just thought of that story on your own with no problem. I mean, people have tons of stories and they don't even realize how great they are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So how does everybody get a hold of you?
Well, as a thank you to you and your audience for having to listen to me, I wanted to give everybody a freebie. So if you go to freestoryguide.com, again, freestoryguide.com, I'm going to give you a free blueprint that shows you exactly how to go through those 5 C's, how to get clarity in your talk, how to connect with your audience, what you should be teaching in the content portion of your talk, how to create a call to action that serves rather than sounds salesy to your audience, and then finally how to have an emotional close that's going to get everybody to want to take the next step with you. You can get that at freestoryguide.com. And I just want to thank again, Alice, for having me today. I love it, and I love that story you share with me. It's in my head now.
All right, use it. Use it.
I will.
All right. Thank you so much for being on my show. It's truly been a pleasure. And our audience, you heard it, you get a nice freebie. Here, use that too.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for being here. It's truly been my honor. And we'll see you all on Wisdom on the Front Porch next time. Oh, thank you so much for being here. This has just been so much fun.
That was great, Alice. Just holler whenever you need anything. And I really appreciate you. And that was a great story, man. You just came right up with that. I mean, some people, I've worked with people they're difficult. And I'm like, think about anything in your life. I mean,
I got a million of them.
Absolutely. Everybody has a million of them. And what the trick is then trying to figure out what's this story really about.
Yeah.
So, what do you want your audience to do with that story?
And it was great that you gave the pointers. It could be about love. It could be about a struggle. It could be about, the things that you were saying. And it's like, well, what is that story about? And it's like, well, it must be about love because I loved her.
That's right.
But that's great.
Well, you take care. I'm going to go. I got another podcast right on after
All
this.
Right.
Holler whenever you need anything, my friend.
Okay, great. You too. We'll see you.
All right. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.